And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 65. Well, fantastic one today. Super jazzed up for this one. Thank you so much. Janky do thank you to the Quirky Garage 1999 who shared with me an absolutely exquisite, fantastic Aerostar. I'm so excited to show you all. And spoiler alert, this one is outside of the United States. Now, it's funny because I was just about to do this, residency down in Mexico and start to explore some of the foreign Aerostars. And there's a great Mexican Aerostar community down there. And just as I was about to do that, I started to get some of these suggestions from people out there, and thank you to all who have done that. And we've done one up in Quebec in Canada, and today we'll see another one somewhere else. So perhaps I have teased it long enough, and we should just get straight into it. So without further ado, here we have a 1997 Ford Galaxy. And there you go. And of course, just saying those words has thrown me off and perhaps thrown you off, but it is a Ford Aerostar 3000 V6 Benzina Cambio Automatico. Okay, and this is listed in Peschiera Borromeo, Italy. Our first Italian Aerostar, and boy, as you can see here, and we'll get to it in a second, I'll bury the lead here, but just a gorgeous looking Aerostar. And the first thing, before everything else, we have to get to it, I can't delay it, is look at this. This is wood grain. This is an Aerostar Woody. I, for many years, have always wanted to do an Aerostar Woody. I've also wanted to put wood paneling, if you can believe it or not. It's sacrilege on my Fiat X19. I've always loved the wood paneling, the faux grain wood paneling, and it was a staple on many American cars, from your Ford Crown Victorias all the way back to your 30s, sort of like sedan deliveries, all the way up through the ranks. Now, the Chrysler minivans did have a wood grain package that went on them, the Voyagers and the Town and Countries and the Caravans. I don't know if the Astra ever got the wood grain treatment, but here we have with the wood grain treatment on this Aerostar. And what's so ironic about this is it's such an American thing. I said this to the Quirky Garage. I said it's such an American thing to have wood grain on a vehicle. So how ironic is it that the first one we ever see is listed in Italy, of all places, where I would think with like the Italian style, this would be considered extremely, like kitschy and unrefined and, those silly Americans. But nonetheless, here we have it. Now, I'm not sure if Ford called the Aerostar the Galaxy, and this is the other thing I have to get into. And the Quirky Garage also told me, and I'll get into it a little bit more with them in our correspondence, but they told me that apparently the Aerostar was sold natively in France because they are living in France, but they found this Aerostar in Italy. So I'm wondering if these were sold in Italy as well. And I'm wondering if this is even a factory wood grain finish here, or if someone did it. Presumably it's factory. I mean, it looks really nice. Really well done. So I knew the Aerostar was sold in Canada, and you see some with like, kilometers an hour instead of miles per hour on the dashboard. But this is all news to me. I'm trying to figure out. I think they were probably sold in Mexico new too, but I'm not sure about that. But apparently they were sold in France only as Eddie Bauer editions, and they didn't do so well, especially against the Chrysler minivans and, of course, the Renault Espace, which I always considered sort of like the European Aerostar, a beautiful-looking van that I would love to import one day. But maybe I'll be importing a Ford Aerostar from Italy, who knows. Certainly not at this price point, because this is listed for 15,000 euro, which unfortunately I have not done the conversion on. Perhaps I'll put it up on the screen. Usually I do that ahead of time, but I got a little excited today, okay, and I didn't do my proper preparation for this episode. But last I checked, it's probably around $17,000, something like that. We'll see how accurate I am with that figure. Wow. Well, you've seen me get to butcher Spanish, and you've seen me get to butcher French. And I guess this actually, I think this listing is in French because they were probably searching in France. So contactez le vendeur is if you want to contact the vendor or the seller here. So we'll go through the stats really briefly, and then we have a ton of eye candy for you today here on Year of the Aerostar. Kilometrage. 230,000 kilometers. So that's like what, 180,000, 170,000 miles, something like that. Transmission boîtier automatique année, which I think is a year, like in annum, the Latin, 1997. Carburant, I mentioned that last time. It's funny to hear that, you can see where the word carburetor come from. Essence, which is, of course is gas. The puissance cubée per bébé. I'm guessing this is the mileage. 107 kilowatts for 145 ch. I don't know. Oh, maybe that's power. Maybe that's horsepower. And the vendeur is pro, which I'm guessing means it's a dealer as opposed to a private sale. This is on Auto Scout. Holy cannoli. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit here, and we'll go through these absolutely astounding photos. Now, great color scheme. So it's the gold over gray, and then they've put this wood green package on. Now, this is, I just did a poll when I had the week of red Aerostars, and I said, what's your favorite Aerostar color? Now, unfortunately, YouTube only provided me with like 6 options, and of course there were many color schemes on the Aerostar, and many two-tone color schemes, and even three-tone if you want to count like a sandwich, where like this strip in the middle here is sort of one color, and the top and the bottom are another color, which, even though it's only 2 shades, it's kind of a 3-tone because you get 3 sections of color, as opposed to just, your bottom here, which is 1 color, which would be more of a 2-tone. But this is a true tritone because you have the gold, you have the wood grain, and then you have the gray bumpers. I got to admit, it looks a little strange. Like, I think the wooden appearance package, if this was like green over gold, it would make more sense. Or if it was just a monochromatic color with the wood grain, I think the gray bumperettes here and sort of side striping down the lower section of the Aerostar makes it look like a little funny, but certainly not bad in any way. It's sort of funny to see. The gray is sort of its own accent piece, so it's kind of competing with this wood grain, which is a little weird, but overall I think it kind of works. I think it's kind of great, and I think the actual size or lines that they chose to put the wood grain down were absolutely perfect. I just can't get over this thing. I mean, this is like, unicorn of all unicorns. I've never seen a wood grain Aerostar before, and in Italy of all places, and it may even be like a factory Italian sale. So jumping out, I love these hubcaps. These are like one of my favorite Aerostar hubcaps. They're a little bit more upscale hubcap. They look to be like an actual chrome metal instead of a plastic. One of my favorite Aerostars. And I think someone commented, I think these are even on like the Ford Tempo, and so they were used sort of widely throughout the Ford range. Look at this exhaust system. Looks like we have like a custom exhaust tip on here, which I gotta say, in this like sort of boxy oval design, like actually looks quite nice. It actually looks quite upscale, and I kind of like it, as opposed to just like a big large coffee can muffler. Now obviously this is probably a 97 because we have our taillights that are missing the amber section here, denoting the last year of manufacture. We also have what looks to be maybe some aftermarket like blinker lights here, although one is orange and one is white, which is strange to me, but I don't know. We're learning a lot as we go here on Year of the Aerostar. Okay, continuing on. Boy, just look at this thing. I mean, again, the wood grain, I always talk about how the Aerostar is this like very sort of angular design, and yet within the angles there are lots of curves if you look close enough. And this sweeping curve down the front quarter panel section here, it's just the perfect place to put a wood grain panel. I think it looks absolutely tremendous, and I like that. A lot of wood grain panels are a little on the darker side, more of like a chestnut or a walnut. This is almost like a maple, or a pecan, and I love the wood grain texture that's on here. Now this is, I'm guessing Ford did exactly what I would have done, which is find like some sort of laminate that's in a wood grain style, and just sort of slap it on, just sort of stick it on. And that's what I'm guessing this is, because if you look here, you can see that the little part of your door track is still like body colored. So they didn't get, obviously it looks very well done, but they didn't get like, cover every single little detail with a wrap or something like that. you know, it sort of leaves little gaps and things like there. So the other thing I'll point out is that they've done an incredible job of matching the wood grain section to the body panels. Like, you have real continuity here in your grain pattern, which is a amazing attention to detail. Now, if you just had one strip and you sort of cut it in the right places, it wouldn't be too hard to achieve, but I do like that they that there's continuity of the wood grain pattern. It's just a little attention to detail that I really like. This, I'm guessing, is a European thing. I've never seen these side indicators here, so I wonder if that was like a European regulation that had to have them in there. So presumably if this was sold natively in Italy, this would be like sort of a factory thing that Ford did, where they had to have some sort of side blinkers here. Incidentally, I think it looks quite nice. Now maybe the 97s did that in the US too, I'm not quite sure. But certainly doesn't detract anything. It looks quite at home there. Okay, profile shot. We do have the sun here. We're a little backlit, but boy, you can see the Italian architecture, and it looks, to me, very at home in Italy, you know. And Italian people like to do things like going out to dinner, and they certainly like to be in the practice of escorting ladies.
Escorting ladies.
Which you can also do in the Aerostar, playing the market and all the things that the many activities that the Aerostar will help you achieve. Okay, another just breathtaking, and this shot's perfect because now we have sort of the sun behind us, and you can see that gray even has like a little bit of a brownish hue in it, and that really sort of brings home the entire color palette as this sort of tans and golds and browns. Even your background with these like nice panels here is sort of a perfect backdrop for this setting. It is, of course, an extended Aerostar, and I think that really, you know, you have all the grandeur and the splendor of the full-length extended model. I think that's perfect for this particular Aerostar and its color scheme. So boy, I'm just blown away by this. Just to see like not only a European plate on here, but an Italian plate. I love that. 1997, so you have your, you know, flush headlights here, and other than the wood paneling, it's a pretty commonplace livery. You know, your gray painted bumpers with your gold exterior color. That's all, you know, pretty, I don't want to say run of the mill, but, you know, pretty common Aerostar spec, except for obviously this wood grain paneling, which I'm just not going to be able to stop talking about. And of course, it wraps around the back. You know, highlighting sort of your beautiful crease lines in your body, just bordering your taillights on either side, and it gives this sort of beautiful balanced long strip. And obviously again, we see your license plate holder here. Now, it is interesting that the Aerostar was made with a wide enough license plate holder to fit a European plate, so maybe it was designed to you know, compete in all markets. And that obviously has not been, you know, wrapped or covered in wood grain too. We have another gap here, but I like that. I think it sort of, you know, gives us just a little bit more contrast and a little bit more variation. And then beautifully, I love that we can see the Aerostar badging and the Ford Blue Oval logo placed on top of the wood grain. Like, I think just to see an Aerostar badge placed on top of wood grain, it looks like it's an XLT model. Just absolutely stunning, and what a lovely backdrop here too. I'm not sure where this is, if this is a dealer or some sort of business space. Looks like we have a nice dumpster with some stairs and a loading dock there of some sort. I digress. But these lights are very interesting. I don't know if this is like an extra reverse light and an extra brake light, even though we have the brake light here and two reverse lights there. But I don't know. I'm totally lost on this one. I'm flummoxed, and I'm just astounded by the beauty and impeccable you know, styling of this Aerostar. It looks so good with the wood grain. I just cannot get over it. And you know, I just have to have a wood grain Aerostar now that I've seen one. 15,000 euros, you know, especially for a vehicle with, you know, higher mileage is certainly a lot, but I'm guessing that because this is such a rare car over there, maybe there's a price premium attached to it. I mean, certainly if you bought this and you're living in Italy, there's going to be absolutely no one driving anything like you. And it's funny because in the classic car world, you know, rarity and exclusivity is like a really big thing. You know, they only made 300 of these, they only made 200 of these, they only made 26 of these. Well, how many, you know, Aerostars, no less wood grain Aerostars, are running around Europe? Fantastically rare. So you would certainly turn heads in this, you know, beautiful piece of American craftsmanship, all the way from St. Louis. now in the heart of Italy. Whew, I'm at a loss for words. This is just absolutely astounding. Thank you again so much to Quirky Garage 1999 for passing this along, because I never would have found this myself. I mean, maybe I would have, quite honestly, because I do. Now I'm going to search more Aerostars in Europe. Like now my interest is really, really peaked. I never thought they were sold there, but it seems like maybe this was sold actually new in Europe, or at least, maybe it's a Canadian Aerostar that made its way over. Now, we'll get into the interior. The interior also, by the way, looks absolutely immaculate. So this is incredibly well preserved. I mean, just look at the condition of these seats and the dashboard. And it's nice to see a second, a facelifted interior in tan. I feel like a lot of the facelifted interiors we see are in gray. And so the tan really just shimmers. I just love the steering wheel. It's one of my favorite steering wheels of all time, as I've mentioned many times in this program. See if we can see some more interior. Okay, this is a little better. Obviously, we can see it's kilometers per hour. I'm trying to see if I can see if these are written in English, but I can't quite make out if all those, if they actually went to the trouble of putting it in a different language, or if it's simply in English. We have a child seat here, which is very interesting. So presumably this thing was being used, or is being used, as like a daily driver family vehicle, which is just fantastic, because 97, we're over 20 years on from this Aerostar rolling off the factory, and it's still in use today. And just even the carpet, especially if you're carrying kids around in this thing, for how clean this thing is. I mean, it's just pristine. Look at those beautiful gold seats. And of course, this is, I always mention the two-tone interior because there's two separate fabrics here, but I do love the monochromatic two-tone, if that makes sense. So no piping, no different colored inserts. I love all that, but there's something about like the monochromatic seats where it really brings out, it highlights the disparity in the texture of the material, and I really, really like that. Just so clean, and it doesn't look like there's any clear coat fade. All your rubber looks nice, not dried out or dry rotted, which, I'm sure Italy gets quite a bit of sun, so that's very, very impressive. I would love to know this thing's story. Of course, again, your old school, really heavy duty metal seatbelt locks with your bright orange release tabs. Just those little details about these older vehicles that, is really, really impressive and really, really fun to see. Here we have a shot of the back. It looks like you have both bench seats in there. You have your shorter bench seat, allow access for your rear bench seat. And even, this is 2 rows of seating, and look at how much space there is behind there. It rivals the Ford Excursion. When I was in New York City, we took a Uber in a 2023 Cadillac Escalade, just giant hulking thing. Very impressive. But as I was looking around, it's still kind of like curved in there. Like, you're still, for how big and boxy of a vehicle that is, I was looking around in there, I was like, I think the extended Aerostar might have just as much space as a 2023 Escalade, while still having like a smaller footprint on the outside. And, full 4x8 sheets of plywood or sheetrock or anything can obviously go in there. But this thing is so pristine. I don't know if you could use this as a work vehicle. Even like your netting in here, this is a small detail, but a lot of times this netting, this beautiful netting in here will sort of like stretch out and lose its elasticity. And this still looks to be pretty taut and tight, which is really nice. And just, those extra little measures of practicality. Now, yeah, okay, you got a couple little scuffs in there like that, but geez, it's, over 20 years old, 25 years old at this point. So great shot of the seats here with these beautiful armrests. Now, my 2012 Ford Transit, what Wikipedia refers to as the spiritual successor of the Ford Aerostar. Wonderful car, I loved it, but the armrests were just absolutely useless. They would just immediately fall off, and they were real skinny. I love these seats because they're, just have that like sort of bulbous, sturdy feel to them. And the armrests are, you have armrests for the passenger and your driver. And just a really good quality armrest, which when you're doing a lot of miles in a vehicle is quite important as almost a amenity, a luxury feature. Your door panels are great, and even on a lot of these Aerostars, these sort of map holders here will have some sort of color piping on them, which in the right application looks tremendous, looks wonderful. But again, I really like how everything is just gold in here. It's like obviously you have it's a black and tan interior because you have your black sort of vents in your dashboard and all that. just to give a little bit of contrast in your blind. And crank windows, of course, I have to point that out. Crank windows on this, which is very interesting because in 97, especially for an XLT, I feel like a lot of the 97s were pretty standard and had probably the vast majority of them, I would guess, had power windows and locks, but it looks like this has crank windows. Crank windows, of course, always good just in case you drive off of a pier, which hopefully no one will be doing in this, especially because if you're in Italy, it's going to be into salt water, and that won't be good for the vehicle. So we'll try to keep it off the pier, but if you happen to drive off a pier, you don't have to worry about the electronics not working in the water, and you can just crank down your windows and escape the vehicle. Get onto dry land and buy yourself another Aerostar. As I was saying, your beautiful map holders here and this lovely carpet. Again, the use of different materials, even though it's the same color, just gives it this, extra level of detail and refinement, and it's absolutely beautiful. A lot of times too, even like your door cards or stuff like that would have multiple colors going on, but I love how this is just like a sea of different golds and beiges and tans, and really beautiful to see. Even like the beige door against your gold metal on your door frame there, and you can see that actually this is a nice little shot of the wood grain wrap. It looks like it does come around the side there, which is interesting, and it looks like it's holding up incredibly well too. So I'm still holding out the possibility that maybe this was an aftermarket thing done by the owner for aesthetic reasons, but I have so many questions about this Aerostar. Like I said, if this could tell a story, I really want to see what the life of this vehicle was and how it got to Italy, how it got this wood grain on it, but absolutely astounding, absolutely stunning. So, if you're living the European lifestyle, again, 15,000 euros is a lot for an Aerostar. No doubt. We see another little scuff on the bumper. It's got a couple little nicks on it, but, overall, obviously, just fantastic condition. You want to drive something different, you want to drive something rare, you want to drive something that you don't see every day. You show up to a car show in this thing, and you're going to get attention. I can guarantee you that. Let's slide through the pictures one more time here. This one really is just doing it for me. See if I can go full screen here. Oh yeah, look at that. We'll just, my face is going to be in this corner, so I'll try to get you a full shot of that Aerostar right there. Look at that. We can just stand there and drink it in. Whew. And even, I will say, like, the 97 taillights are cool. I kind of prefer them with the amber in here, but without the amber. Now, you have this gold turn signal here, so perhaps the amber would sort of, go well with that, especially because you have your amber corner light here on your headlights. But, it also helps sort of add a little bit of, minimalism to draw your eye even more into the wood grain paneling. So I actually like kind of the 97 tail light here. Again, this very cool exhaust pipe, and it looks like, it's just a tip, but it's a pretty long tip, and maybe even is some sort of custom exhaust that runs back there, because I don't see like just the normal round tailpipe in here. Maybe it's back there somewhere and it is just a tip, but a very cool looking exhaust on this Aerostar. Now, I have talked previously a couple times about how I joke how the Aerostar is a side exhaust, or a semi-side exhaust. Like Dodge Vipers and old Corvette C2s, a lot of them C3s sometimes have this big side exhaust here, and the side exhaust, I often compare the Aerostar to a sports car, and the side exhaust is like a real sort of muscular, really hairy-chested feature where, you can cook eggs on the pipe, and if you got to be careful stepping into the car because it's hot, and it's just like a really, raucous thing. And so I often say that it's funny that the Aerostar has like a semi-side exhaust where it doesn't come all the way out the back. Now, that's also sort of a good feature if you're, if the car is running, or if the car has recently been running. If you're getting in and out of the back of this Aerostar a lot, or loading stuff in there, it's actually kind of a practical feature, because that heat and that exhaust is not going to be sort of, pumping into your face, as it were. It's sort of off to the side, so it's kind of a nice feature to have, actually. Looks like a little ding, a little crease here in the body, by the way. But again, I'm nitpicking here. This is an absolutely astounding looking Aerostar. Also, it's a little bit less length, so it's a little bit less metal to be corroded, and probably dangles and hangs and a little less because it doesn't have to go all the way out the back. So just another, I thought, interesting feature of the Aerostar, this sort of semi-side exhaust. Again, I'm at a loss for words. I'm speechless. This is just like one of my favorite Aerostars I've ever seen. With this wood grain finish, again wrapping around the back. You know, like as Jay Leno likes to say, like you could just sit in your garage with a glass of wine, particularly, you know, Italian vino, and just stare at this thing. And I'm certainly doing that right now, minus the vino. Whew. I don't know what to say. It's beautiful. I wish I had 15,000 euros and a way to import this. Absolutely stunning. So clean, you know, all the carpets, even your driver's side carpet, which usually gets really marred, still looks to be pretty clean. I saw a little bit of staining maybe right in the corner there, but, you know, I don't even know if this thing's ever seen winter. Again, kilometers an hour. It's funny to see the number 180 in any context on an Aerostar speedometer. And I'm trying to read there. It does look like the rest of it's in English. It all says like normal on your range of your temperatures and you know, power and all that things. Again, your beautiful horn buttons located on your steering wheel. Absolutely love that. With these, you know, these little, this is a stretch maybe, but these little horizontal lines that run along the side of your sort of airbag portion of your steering wheel, and even like the angle of this crease here in the steering wheel is not dissimilar at all from those similar creases and lines in the body of the Aerostar itself. So just more like sort of subtle continuity of the design of this vehicle that I think is absolutely astounding. So, what else is there to say? There you have it. Just a absolutely stunning, immaculate, handsome, dashing.
The handsome, dashing Ford Aerostar.
1997 Ford Aerostar, listed for 15,000 euros in Peschiera, Palmareo, Italy. Janky again to the Quirky Garage 1999 for sending this, and for the lovely correspondence we've had. And if you have an Aerostar that you've seen somewhere in Europe or anywhere else, please send it along. I got another one, which will probably be the next video. That's a really special one that someone just sent me, and I'll shout you out in the next video. Whew, drink it in. There you have it. A really special one today. Thank you to everybody who's been commenting. I've really enjoyed the correspondence with everybody on this magnificent van that we all seem to love so much. I was just watching, as an aside here, and then I'll wrap up. Ed Bolian and VinWiki, they do this appraisal series of Jay Leno's garage, or of many different collections, and they just did Jay Leno's collection. And Ed Bolian had a great line about, because Jay has some very obscure cars. I think they were talking about one of his steam cars, and Ed was saying, I love anybody who loves a car so much to the point that they evangelize it, and that just warmed my heart, because I am certainly an evangelist for the Ford Aerostar. And I think Seinfeld said something to the similar degree. He's fascinated when anyone is really into something, like just that obsession, or that, what is it that about the essence of something that just like speaks to you or resonates with you, and I'm certainly in that same boat. And obviously for me, I have several vehicular obsessions, but none more so than the Ford Aerostar. So appreciate everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for checking in and offering your feedback and your knowledge. Appreciate it all. If you're new to this program for whatever reason, please, we'd love it if you commented or liked the video or subscribe to the channel. We're a growing young channel. We're a modest little channel, but we do appreciate the amount of growth that we've been having. And what can I say but Janky do thanky? So there you have it. Another wonderful year, a wonderful episode of Year of the Aerostar, this lovely program that we have that I certainly find a lot of joy in. And I'll wrap up my blathering here. Until next time, Janky do thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.